This is the presentation on Israel's economy. We're going to be talking about the things they produce, how they produce it, some of the challenges that they face, things like that. Again, as always, anytime I say next slide, if you're not done taking the notes on that page, go ahead and hit pause. And then when you're ready, you can unpause the video. You'll be good to go. Let's get it started. Next slide. All right. As you can see right here, Israel is rated basically 70% free, 30% command. This is on that economic continuum, economic spectrum, economic scale, whatever you want to call it. But that rating from 0, where 0 is always, pure command, and 100 is pure market, Israel's about 70%. So mostly free, 30% command. All right. And because it's more free than it is command, we say Israel has a market economic system. Remember, we've already established, we know every country on the planet has a mixed economy. But when we look at this, we figure out, is it more free? If it's more free, then it's market. If it's less free, then we say it's command. They have a lot of different things. Private businesses, this means the things that are run and owned and controlled by regular people, would be things like the technology businesses, agriculture, tourism, and those are determined basically by decisions regular people make. All right. It's important to note Israel doesn't have a lot of natural resources on its own. And because of that, they have to have a very educated workforce that knows how to make the best of what they've got. And they're really, really good at this. They don't have a lot of farmland, for instance, but they're able to produce enough food that they're actually able to not only support themselves, but export food to other people. So they're very, very good at maximizing their resources of what they already have. And of course, anytime you have a market economic system, or mostly market, your prices are going to be based on supply and demand. That means the more of something is, the more of a supply there is, price goes down. The more of a demand for something, price goes up. All right. So those two things work hand in hand. Next slide. Government does have some say in the economic planning. There's certain areas that the government has a lot of control of. Very specifically, some of the utilities like the electric system, natural gas, are both heavily government controlled, and the aerospace industry. So the things that decide, like manufacture of airplanes and stuff like that, that is all very much in control of the government. Also, the government owns most of the land. People can farm on the land, but government owns the land. So that means they're going to get some taxes off of that. So any kind of agricultural product or anything like that, again, you're paying the government a tax for that. There's also some significant taxes on banking services and stuff like that. Israel being a major world economic hub where a lot of banking happens there. Next slide. You can see some of the farmland and agricultural area that they do have. Notice it's not quite flat. They have to kind of, again, make use of what they've got. So that includes kind of having to do some of their farming up on hillier areas and places like that. Next slide. Israel has the most diversified economy in Southwest Asia, the Middle East. All right. That's a big fancy word. It means that their economy is based on many different products. They got a lot of different things. Mining, cutting and polishing diamonds. Notice it's cutting and polishing. It is not manufacturing. They're not producing. Diamond is not a natural resource for Israel, or not a major one. But the cutting and the polishing, that's something that they can do. So that's more of a service. Agriculture and manufacturing tech equipment. But because these are very complex jobs and require a lot of thought and education, Israel has to invest and make in their education system and make sure that it is top of the line, because of the fact that they need that educated workforce to keep up with the rest of the people. All right. This is an example. Investing in your human capital is an example of, well, I apologize. investing in education is an example of investing in human capital. My bad. Spun that around a little bit. Also, you're going to have a lot of people working in the service industry because Israel is a very popular tourist destination, especially for people on religious trips and things like that. A lot of the, Old Testament and, Old Testament, New Testament takes place in and around Israel, not to mention, it's also got some significant issues, or not issues, locations for the Islamic faith as well. So all three Western religions have a lot of stuff, in terms of reasons to visit Israel. So very, very popular tourist destination. Next slide. You can see Tel Aviv, which is kind of the international capital of Israel. Many countries don't recognize Jerusalem as the main capital for a lot of different reasons. And then you have Jerusalem right here, which is probably the most well known, and as we've discussed, an important site for all three of the Western religions there. So those are the two very, very important places for people to visit in Israel. Next slide. They do have some challenges. Basically, since it started out in 1948, a lot of conflict. I mean, the day after it was founded, it got invaded, and they've been kind of having to deal with those kind of threats ever since. So because of that, when you have to constantly build up your military and protect yourself, that's going to put a drain on your economy a little bit. So, that has held them back somewhat, but they're still doing very well. And then also they have a significant number of people who immigrate to that country, but those people are bringing skills, so they are working on finding ways to incorporate them better into that community so that they can better contribute to the society there. Next slide. You can see a picture here. This is a military plane. It's actually a tanker used for refueling airplanes while they're flying. Very tricky thing. Again, you're going to need a lot of education to pull that off. And then you can see here where you have government officials meeting with members of Israel's military. And we've discussed that Israel's military has mandatory service, which means everybody has to serve in the military at some point. So you can see the soldiers on the left here and these government officials on the right. That's pretty much it for Israel. Let me know if you have any questions.